The ancient Egyptian civilization lasted for over 3,000 years and became one of the most powerful and iconic civilizations in history. At its height, ancient Egypt's empire stretched as far north as modern-day Syria and as far south as today's Sudan. But long before it was an empire, ancient Egypt was a series of small, independent city-states that bloomed along North Africa's Nile River. The city-states were divided into two regions and named according to the flow of the Nile: Upper Egypt in the south, which was upstream, and Lower Egypt in the north, which was downstream. By about 3100 BC, the two halves united, thereby creating one Egyptian state that lasted for millennia. The reign of this civilization can be divided into three major periods of prosperity, called the Old, Middle, and New Kingdoms, and two periods of instability in between, called the First and Second Intermediate Periods. Guiding the Egyptian people was a succession of about 300 rulers, often referred to as pharaohs. Pharaoh, which means great house in Egyptian, was never the ruler's formal title. It only became synonymous with the ruling individual in modern times, thanks to its use in the Hebrew Bible. These rulers, who were not always men, nor Egyptian, were considered protectors of the people and served as divine liaisons between humanity and the hundreds of gods they worshipped. After the rulers passed away, ancient Egyptians believed they then became gods. To prepare their journey into the afterlife, the rulers constructed elaborate tombs, including the Great Pyramids at Giza and underground mausoleums in the Valley of the Kings. Rulers filled their tombs with all the items they could need in the afterlife, including gold, jewelry, food, drink, and even pets. Preparing for this journey to the gods also involved mummifying one's body. The deceased's corpse was embalmed, wrapped in hundreds of yards of linen, and placed inside the tomb so the body could be reanimated in the afterlife. To this day, structures like the Great Pyramids are a testament to the role of religion in ancient Egyptians' lives. But they also represent the innovative and cultural might of the Egyptian people. Innovations in mathematics and written language in particular propelled their civilization to success. Math, specifically measurement mathematics, helped Egyptians understand and harness their world with numbers like no other civilization had before. They developed a new form of measurement called the cubit. It was used to design massive structures, such as the Great Pyramid, with remarkable geometrical precision. The Egyptians also measured time. By combining mathematics with astronomy, they established a 24-hour division to the day and created a solar calendar, which was the first dating system in history to feature 365 days in one year. Lastly, Egyptians developed methods to measure and survey land around the Nile River. These civil engineering feats made way for the construction of dams, canals, and irrigation systems that helped farming and agriculture to flourish in the Nile Valley. In addition to mathematical concepts, the ancient Egyptians also created written languages to describe the world around them. The oldest and probably most well-known of these is hieroglyphic writing. This system was developed around 3150 BC during the Old Kingdom and has over 700 pictorial characters. It was used to inscribe monuments and pottery and predominantly served a decorative or ceremonial purpose. Soon after, another ancient form of writing, called hieratic, developed out of the hieroglyphic system. It was a form of cursive that was written in ink and served a more functional purpose. Unlike its more formal predecessor, hieratic was written on another ancient Egyptian innovation, papyrus. Papyrus was a type of paper derived from the papyrus plant, which grew plentifully along the Nile River. This medium gave the ancient Egyptians a new avenue of communication and record-keeping that allowed their civilization's administrative skill to grow and their culture to spread for thousands of years. As with all great empires, ancient Egypt came to an end. It was eventually conquered after a series of invasions, including those by the Persian Empire in the 4th century BC and the Roman Empire around 30 BC. Not many civilizations can claim a lifespan of over 3,000 years, let alone one that made vast cultural contributions that still resonate in modern times. Ancient Egypt, with its linguistic and mathematical innovations, spirituality and religion, and extensive political and military might, set a high standard for all civilizations that followed.
Greco-Roman period. Greco-Roman period, 332 BCE to 642 CE. Egypt was conquered by Alexander the Great in 332 BCE. Yet the culture of ancient Egypt, its language, religion, art, and customs continue to flourish for many centuries. Very gradually, it transformed itself into a new culture, that of Greco-Roman and Coptic Egypt. Alexander's general, Ptolemy, founded a new dynasty. These rulers always spoke Greek, not Egyptian, as their first language. Their capital and new international trading center was Alexandria, located at the western tip of the delta. This became the intellectual, philosophical, scientific, cultural, and spiritual capital of the Mediterranean world during the time of the Ptolemaic period. The Ptolemaic dynasty was responsible for a long period of prosperity and expansion abroad. Many remarkable agricultural and economic innovations occurred, including the increased number of yearly crop harvests from an average of 2 to 3 bumper crops per year. Many purely Greek settlements and trading cities were built that were connected by the Silk Road to Syria, Persia, India, China, and Japan. Egypt also increasingly experienced rebellion from the native Egyptians due to the hardships imposed on them from other cultures. Macedonian Greek rule ended with the self-inflicted death of the famous Cleopatra VII. After her death, Egypt officially became part of the Roman Empire. However, many Egyptians chose to adhere to their traditional ways for another 500 years. The history of Egypt did not end with Cleopatra. During the next 600 years, Egypt was the leading scientific, cultural, and religious province of the Roman Empire. It was ruled first from Rome and then from Constantinople. During this Roman and Byzantine period, Egyptian culture and language interacted with the Greco-Roman world and evolved into the form we call Coptic, a term from the same root as the word Egypt. Coptic period. Coptic period, 395 to 642 CE. After Cleopatra's death in 30 BCE, Egypt officially became part of the Roman Empire. It was ruled first from Rome and then from Constantinople. During this Roman and Byzantine period, Egyptian culture and language interacted with the Greco-Roman world and evolved into the form we call Coptic, a term from the same root as the word Egypt. By the middle of the 7th century, the majority of Egyptians were Coptic Christians. The Coptic language is native Egyptian, written in letters adapted from Greek. In 642 CE, forces from the Arabian Peninsula took control of Egypt and brought with them the Islamic religion. For the ensuing centuries, the Coptic and Arabic languages, cultures, and the Christian and Muslim faiths lived together in Egypt. It was not until between the 10th and 12th centuries that the majority of Egyptians began to speak Arabic as their first language. Coptic, however, is still used liturgically today in the Coptic Christian Church. Islamic period and modern Egypt. Islamic period and modern Egypt, 642 CE to today. The Arab general Amr ibn al-As liberated Egypt from the Romans in 642 CE. Jews and Christians welcomed the Muslims as a fellow people of the book. The great Muslim empires from the Umayyad Caliphate to the Ottoman Empire ruled over Egypt for almost 1,200 years until the Europeans, first the French and then the British, invaded in the late 18th and early 19th centuries. The French entered Egypt under Napoleon in 1798, but were defeated by the British and the Turks in 1801. In 1805, Ottoman commander Muhammad Ali established a dynasty that ruled until 1952. The Suez Canal was built between 1859 and 1869. This project nearly bankrupted Egypt and led to a gradual British takeover. In 1882, British troops defeated the Egyptian army and took control of the country. In 1914, Britain formally made Egypt a British protectorate. This period was a golden age of science, but a dark time for Egypt. Archaeologists excavated at will, but banned native Egyptians from the profession. The independent-minded Egyptians resisted the British through active and passive methods. In 1922, Egypt gained its independence, although British influence remained strong until 1953. In 1953, following a coup, the country became a republic. Today, Egypt's official name is the Arab Republic of Egypt.